Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. Josh sent me over a note and said, hey, check out this article from the American Bar Association Journal. Thanks for this. This is a fascinating story. A public defender has been fired after the judge discovered that she never passed the bar exam. It turns out that to be a lawyer, in most places, you have to pass a bar exam. But either way, in most places, you've got to be admitted to a bar. And to be admitted to a state bar, most states have got requirements that say, here's what you must do. And if one of those things is to pass a bar exam, you have to pass the bar exam to be an attorney and practice law. Out of the ABA Journal, an assistant public defender who gave advice and made critical decisions on about 80 cases has been fired after a judge discovered she did not have a law license. Now, you might say, Steve, what's advice and critical decisions? Why are they making that specification? It might be that she didn't try any cases, but it might also be that she had clients and advised them and negotiated on their behalf and then got them some kind of deal to which they would then go into court and enter a plea. And of course, if these people entered pleas after getting advice from a non-lawyer, you might have an issue there. The assistant public defender, Kelsey Miller of Edwardsville, Illinois, was fired last week, according to Madison County, Illinois public defender John Rakowski. The Belleville News Democrat, the Edwardsville Intelligencer, the Madison St. Clair Record, and KMOV all covered Rakowski's Wednesday news conference. And of course, this is kind of embarrassing. Miller was hired in October, and a judge discovered she didn't have a law license when he checked an Illinois database of lawyers for a court reporter who wanted to know how to spell Miller's first name. So Kelsey Miller, Kelsey, Kelcie, was undone by having an unusual first name. Let that be a lesson to you mothers who name your kids wacky first names and go, yeah, but it'll be unique. It'll also get her fired from her first job. Rakowski said Miller failed the bar exam twice, although she is a graduate of Valparaiso University in Indiana and Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, according to the Edwardsville Intelligencer. Rakowski said Miller lied about being a lawyer when he hired her in October, according to the Belleville News Democrat coverage. I have hired I don't know how many people over my 35 years. I've never asked to see a law license, he said. I've never been lied to about it. I just had no reason to ever think that anybody would do this. The big lie sometimes is better than the small one. Yeah, except for the fact that, you carry that little card in your wallet, the bar card. And also, lawyers are listed in the Bar Journal. And also, they're online. About once a week, somebody actually asks me, but are you a real attorney, Steve? Are you a real attorney? And I always say, yes, I am. And they go, prove it. And I say, rather than me proving it by pointing at my diplomas or whatever, why don't you go to the Michigan Bar's website, mishbar.org, and type in my name and see if it pops up as an attorney. And if it pops up and says Steve Lehto, attorney in good standing since 1991, you can go, okay, Steve's an attorney in Michigan. Or maybe there's an elaborate hoax, conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. Rakowski said he would begin requiring proof of a law license in the future. Hey, the horse is out, but would somebody please close that barn door? Thank you. Rakowski said no prosecutors or staff members had complained about Miller's work. Miller had worked on plea bargains, mostly in felony cases, and none were violent felonies, which he'd like to point out. The open cases have been reassigned, according to Rakowski, and everyone who has a closed case that was handled by Miller will be contacted so the public defender's office can go over their options with them. Yeah, okay, there we go. So, yeah, it's a problem. And I know that it's embarrassing to hire somebody, or you're in the process of hiring somebody, and you say, I need someone who's licensed to drive a car. Can I see your driver's license? Just can I see it? Pull it out and show it to me? I mean, I understand a person could be revoked or something, or they suspended, but they might still have their license somehow. But at least asking to see it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And asking if someone's passed the bar, as they walk in and they go, yeah, I went to law school. That's not enough. Did you pass the bar? the bar exam? And if they say, yeah, I did, I'd ask a couple of questions. How'd that go? First time, second time? How'd that work out for you? And then you say, have you been admitted? Because you don't get admitted to the bar the instant you pass the bar exam. Usually, there's another portion of the process that involves a character and fitness. And then once you've been approved by character and fitness and you pass the bar, those get submitted and then you get sworn in. I think I'd ask who swore you in, just to make small talk, because I was sworn in by Judge Edward Sosnick in Oakland County Circuit Court, a great guy. Now, they do have mass swearing in ceremonies. Someone could say, I got sworn in at the mass swearing in ceremony. And I understand people can answer these questions, but you can always ask a couple questions to make small talk, and then you say, oh, by the way, in fact, you don't have to ask them if they pass the bar, if they're admitted to practice law. You don't have to ask any of that. You can look it up on the website like anybody else does. Like I tell my viewers do. Look it up. Look it up. But just so you know, this is not a horribly isolated incident. And I'll admit, I could not find the story. I looked for it this morning. I've looked for it before. It's out there. I'm not pulling a Ronald Reagan on you here, but this is an actual story. I just couldn't find it in the news. If anybody remembers enough of the facts of this case to look it up, pass it along to me, and I'd love to see that. But a few years back in Detroit, okay, I think it was Wayne County, but I could be wrong about this. But in one of the courts that was in Detroit, there was a translator, a guy who spoke a language from another country, okay? And I forgot the country, but it was an unusual language. But there's actually a community of people in Detroit who speak this language. So they would often need translators who could speak this language. And this guy got enough attention by doing translations that they'd often call him in anytime they had a case involving people who spoke that language. Say, look, we know a good translator, bring this guy in. And this guy would show up in court dressed very nicely, and he would do translation work. And so he spent a lot of time in the courts, and the judges saw him, and the prosecutors saw him, and pretty much everybody recognized this guy's just a fixture in this area. We see him from time to time enough to we recognize him as being one of the guys who's in the courtroom a lot. And somewhere along the line, somebody had one of those little mental slips where they forgot that this guy's a translator, but not an attorney. And so, think about this. When you're in court, you will have a prosecutor and a defense attorney and a client or a defendant and a translator. And so you'll see the defendant talking to the translator and the attorney, and you tend to, in your mind, think of this group of people together as kind of just, that's one side. So somewhere along the line, somebody had the mental slip and forgot that the guy was a translator but not an attorney. And so one day, somebody said, hey, by the way, we need an attorney for a court-appointed case. Can you handle it? And this happens. Once in a while, they bring somebody in, and they thought they had somebody that don't. Now, boom, we need a court-appointed. And somebody goes, can you handle it? He goes, sure. This is not open heart surgery. This is simply a procedural thing that this guy's seen over and over again. And a lot of, let's face it, if you've been through the process a bunch of times, a lot of it is going to just simply appear to be kind of like routine, How do you plead? And if the guy has been enough of these preliminary exams or whatever it is, he knows the preliminary hearings, he's going to know that, you plead not guilty, It's not that difficult. So anyways, he handled a couple of hearings, and pretty soon it just kind of like transitioned to where they stopped calling him as a translator as much, but they just started giving him cases. They'd see him, oh, by the way, we got another case for you. And the guy's handling cases. And somebody one day goes, wait a second. Is he an attorney? I thought he was a translator. And it would be very unusual for an attorney to act as a translator, but this was a translator acting as an attorney. And finally somebody said, I think that guy's not an attorney. And of course they looked it up and he wasn't. And they had to go back and find all the people he had represented and explain to them, by the way, he spoke your language very, very well. He just wasn't an attorney. So these things happen. And on some levels, you can kind of go back and look and go, it makes sense. But, if you think you're going to hire somebody for a job and it requires them to have a professional license, and you can go on the internet and look it up in 30 seconds, you can do it yourself. Or if you've got people who work for you, you can ask them to do it for you. Okay? By the way, take a break from your brick breaker game there or your Facebook. And can you tell me, double check, make sure this person's licensed to find out when they pass the bar? Just that kind of thing. Double check it. So yeah, public defender fired after judge discovers she never passed the bar exam. And that's not good. A bigger question now, of course, is if she passes the bar exam, will they admit her to practice law? Because it might be a character and fitness flaw that you went in and led people to believe you'd pass the bar when you hadn't. That might be a problem, an ethical problem. I don't know. Discuss. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.